give the narrative. It is imperative that the truth about us, we give. No more trying to get ratings with the hating. No more fake news. Now we can choose Boston Black News. Boston Black News.
Welcome to Boston Black News. I'm your host, Ron Bell. We're really excited about today because the election, September 3rd, is over. And we're going to be having a special guest this morning, Allison Cartwright, who is the newly elected clerk of the Supreme Judicial Court. We wanted to talk this morning about some of the numbers. We did have a very low turnout in the primary. I believe statewide it was 14%. And so in our communities, and particularly RDM, Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan, it's a little bit lower. So we got to do better, people. We have to definitely do better as far as voter turnout. As I recall, according to the Kaiser Family Foundation, as we know historically, that Black and Latino residents vote at a lower rate than our white counterparts. And according to the data developed by the Kaiser Family Foundation, in the 2020 presidential election, the white community came out 71%, Hispanic community came out 51%, and the black community came out 36%. That's the lowest black voter turnout in the country. So, that's kind of like disappointing to me. But, there was some action going on, and I do understand the fact that many of our media outlets do not promote the September primary, which is unfortunate because the September primary, as we understood this year, was that there were candidates who either you do it or you die. You go home if you didn't win. And that was in particularly with the clerk of the Supreme Judicial Court. Just some observations that for me, as an organized for the last 30 plus years, is that this education around the Governor's Council. We do know that our sister Stacey Borden and Tanisha Civil, I believe, she did win. Tanisha, she did win, I believe, District 2, and then Stacey Bourne gave a heartfelt effort to take on an incumbent that's been in that seat for a number of years, a couple of decades, if not 3 decades.
Yeah, but Ron, the incumbent Christopher Iannella received 20,000 votes.
Right.
Rounding it off. Stacey did 14,000.
That's not bad.
That's not bad, Ron.
First time candidate. Yeah, that's not bad. And I did try to encourage her afterwards because it's very courageous for someone to run, and all those folks that are out here questioning people that are running, we have to recognize the fact that in this 2024 election, out of the 200 legislators, 65% of them did not have a challenger. So we have to do better as far as challenging our elected officials and make sure folks run for office. So with Dunk to Vote, we're going to be going back to our earlier days where we trained candidates to run for office. And I know there's been efforts by a couple of folks to do so, but we were able to get a number of folks through the Dunk to Vote Leadership Institute to run for office, and they went on and either was successful in their efforts or are currently CEOs, scientists, real estate owners, or what have you. And one of the things that we really want to do is not just run for office, but be successful in life. So November 5th is the presidential election, and I know folks are excited in reference to the national politics. Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, and the other guy, Donald Trump, who they're going to have a debate on September 10th, and I am looking forward to that, a prosecutor and a felon. So that's going to be an interesting matchup, to say the least. So make sure September 10th, I believe it's on the other media outlets. I don't know if we're going to be covering it or not, Pastor Wall, the September primary. I don't know if we are not. Are we covering that, the September primary? The debate, September 10th.
We got to pull the team together and see if they'd like to do it.
Okay, yeah, because that's going to be, some firecrackers, to say the least. And I think that, we'll be able to give critique from the lens of Black America. So it was exciting on September primary. We had Boston Black News out in the field. I had the opportunity to interview a number of candidates, including Mayor Michelle Wu, my new city councilor, Ben Weber, and there were other folks that we've interviewed, Rootsy, city council president, and it was really good, and to see the support of candidates supporting Allison Cartwright. And we're going to hear from her this morning to talk about her path to victory. And I just have some questions in reference to what's next. Was that a seat that was vacant? It wasn't vacant. It was a seat that the individual was in it for a number of years.
30-something years.
30-something years.
So there was no incumbent.
There was no incumbent.
Yeah.
And so Allison Cartwright was the victor in that primary. Do they get immediately sworn in? I mean, these are questions I'm going to ask her.
Right. I got some numbers for you.
Okay.
Allison Cartwright, 59% of the vote, 30,000 votes, 30,358 votes. Erin Murphy, 20,500 votes. That's 40%. So Allison got 59%. Erin got 40%, and you would have thought that Erin, who runs citywide every 2 years, would have done a better job.
Right. So
that's why it's important to have Allison on to hear what the strategy was, if she'll share that with us.
Right. The not only the strategy, but also the level of support. Erin Murphy, many of her colleagues did not support her in the city council, as well in the Boston Teachers Union, where she previously was a teacher. So that was interesting to see that. And, it would be, but she does have a job. She remains as a city councilor. So
right. Explain why she still has a job.
Because she ran in a year that the city councilors did not have a race. Their election is next year. That's going to be a doozy, 2025, because not only are the city councilors running for re-election, and hopefully there are others that will step up and run for the city councils at large and city council districts. But make sure you get your signatures. Make sure you get your signatures if you decide to run, and get with folks who understand how challenging and difficult it can be to run for office. So make sure you get your signatures. Number one, if you can't get signatures, that's a very it's an uphill battle. So make sure you get your signatures, get some folks from your community, get some new faces to participate in the electoral process, because it's so important. When we have numbers as low as we have in our community, you wonder why the disparity is so high. You wonder why elected officials may not give you the attention you deserve, but that doesn't let them off the hook. So make sure you get your guide, Making Boston Government Work for You guide. This is a document that Dunk the Vote put together to access services in our community, in City Hall, state government. It has photos of elected officials that represent you, and with their contact information. And these are some of the methods Dunk the Vote has used over our 32-year history to make sure we get things done and to help our community gain access to services. So make sure you get one of these. You can go to our website. You can get the digital version, and that is at dunkthevoteforever.org. Dunkthevoteforever.org. Make sure you get at least look at it. Our next a presidential election is November 5th, the last day to register. So start registering now so you can participate in the presidential election. October 26th is the last day to register to vote. October 29th is the last day to apply to vote by mail. And October 19th to November 1st is early voting. And of course, November 5th, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. is polls open for the presidential election. So let's gear up. Let's make ourselves proud by going out in record turnout numbers. I am working with over 100 different churches, community-based organizations, civil rights groups, and corporations to really organize different groups to go to the polls in record turnout numbers. We're talking to some of our affiliates across the country: Arkansas, Ohio, South Carolina, California, North Carolina, which I just returned from. And we're trying to make sure that not only is Dunk the Vote spreading throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, but also throughout the country, particularly in swing states. So we're really excited about our work, but we need to do better together so that we can get voter turnout up.
Yeah, just to say about the voter's guide, that is one of the most popular guides that has been produced in a number of years.
Right.
I don't know when you first produced your first one if you thought that it was going to have the kind of groundswell of support that people, when they see it, they want it.
Right.
And then when they open it and see all the information, the data that you have inside of that, I do have to take my hat off and congratulate.
I know it's hard for you, but that's good. Spit it out.
Congratulate you for the work that you did.
Yeah. Well, this was not a document, a fly-by-night document. We actually put some time in it, and this came out of the conversations of the Real Talk Boston Network, where we interviewed over 400 people. Why do they vote? Why don't they vote?
There's somebody calling you.
Okay, we have a caller on the air, Boston Black News. How you doing, caller?
All right, how's it going?
Okay, is this Blue?
Excuse me?
Who am I talking with?
Paul Simmons.
Hey, what's up, Paul? How you doing? Good.
All right.
Okay, Paul is our numbers guy. He's a I would say a data extraordinaire, field organizer. He is a strategic organizer. He works with us, Dunk the Vote. He's been in the Pennsylvania area for a couple of years. Paul, we're here talking, Pastor Bruce Wall and I talking about the turnout, and I know that you have the numbers. Could you give us a little, report on that?
Well, the numbers citywide were disastrous. Total turnout was 14.25%. Most of the black precincts came in well under that. I haven't done a total tally yet for all 74 precincts, but roughly speaking, what you had was a crash everywhere except Mattapan and Lower Mills in Dorchester.
And when you said, Paul, and when you said crash everywhere, what was the difference between Mattapan, Lower Mills, as opposed to the other precincts or neighborhoods?
Well, remember, we're talking relative to a low turnout citywide.
Okay.
Okay, so what you saw in those two areas were maybe 15-16%, which is lousy, but better than the rest of the city.
Right. Okay. So we were talking about earlier when I was talking about the numbers and the turnout. One of the things that was a observation for me is the governor's council race, which typically, I confess, I normally just skip over the governor's council. I learned about the governor's council and the role of the governor's council when I worked in the Patrick administration, and I never even paid attention to it before then. And the other seat that was available was the clerk of the Supreme Judicial Court, and Allison Cartwright, who won that seat, will be joining us at 8:30. Do you think that these two positions in seats, do you think now people will pay attention because there were candidates that were from the neighborhood ran for office?
I think that the issue there is organization. And by organization, I mean people that are credible on the ground to voters.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not just a Boston problem, that's a national problem.
Right. Well, I know there are folks that typically the door's locked. It's typically I lost my train of thought. Yeah. I know there are folks that the way I've seen campaigns lately is that folks are using social media and media, but yet the lack of boots on the ground. And that has become a major problem. Now, I know that the state primaries and the preliminary elections in September, normally when they're held, that the media does not really advertise or promote it. And so that's not good. When you hear a presidential election, typically, it's higher turnout. But as I mentioned, and you actually shared with me this report from the Kaiser Family Foundation in 2020, which was a presidential election, that the voter turnout for was low, and historically, black and Latino.
Massachusetts had the lowest black turnout in the whole country.
Yeah, I know. I was going to get to that, but I'm just saying that. What do you think? Now, typically, there are higher turnouts in presidential elections. Why do you think that it was a bad turnout in 2020?
A couple of reasons. First off, nobody was reached on the ground. Number two, actually three reasons. Number two, those people that did do personal contact are credible.
Right.
Number three, as you pointed out, there was an overdependence on social media.
Right.
I mean, moving off general elections, there was a union certification race in Georgia last year.
Mm-hmm.
And United Auto Workers depended on social media, so they lost the election.
Right. Okay.
Because what social media has limited value in politics, except to reinforce what people are already being told. Number one, they don't necessarily have access to the accounts that people use.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, if they don't know the source of the information, all that stuff goes into the junk folder unread.
Right. Okay.
And the other thing is that the message is not customized to the recipient. You don't just go after, let's say if you're going for the youth vote, you don't just go for people 25 and under. You go for the whole family.
Right.
Everything's mutually reinforcing.
Okay. Okay. So you said that the turnout was 14% citywide. What about statewide?
That I don't know yet.
Okay. Okay. Well, it's not a good number, but I don't want to dampen the atmosphere here because we have a candidate who's now a clerk who's here in the studio with us, Allison Cartwright, and we're going to celebrate. All right, so let's not talk about the numbers right now. All right. You have any final thoughts, Paul, before we move on?
That unless and until there's organization where you network horizontally across the neighborhoods all the way down to the block level. Yeah, actually all the way down to the family level when you can do it.
Right. The kitchen table.
And, pardon?
The kitchen table, so to speak.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear that.
Never mind. Go ahead.
I mean, a lot of this stuff is not particularly complicated. It's work intensive. The stuff that has to get done, particularly in this race.
Right, right. Well, thank you, Paul, for calling in. I look forward to seeing you soon. I know you're going to be coming back to the great city of Boston, so you take care of yourself, man.
Okay, then, man. Have a good one yourself.
All right, thank you. Yeah, as we were out in the field during September primary, we were really excited, and we ran into a brother who was giving out flyers. He has the End of Summer Festival all-white lobster and crab fest, and I know Pastor Wall is a fan of seafood. It's an all-white fashion show featuring candy where I can't see it. Saturday, September 14th, 3 to 9 p.m. Tickets only $60, and it's to benefit the HBCUs. So that really what caught my attention because I thought the brother was just handing out flyers, for a party or something because they got that kind of look. But this is a good event. Make sure that you get your tickets. You can reach them at, let me put on these so I can get you the right information. For tickets and more information, call 857-258-3600 or go to www.eventbrite.com. Mojita's Country Club in Randolph, with a F, Massachusetts. So make sure you get that Lobster and Crab Fest. I'm getting hungry already. I'm actually starting to get hungry, Pastor. So I know that I owe you some clams. That cost $60, man. Yeah. Somebody is still on the line. He can hang up. Okay. Yeah, because we're talking about food. But anyway, I'm excited this morning. We have Allison Cartwright here, clerk. Newly elected clerk of the Supreme Judicial Court. Now, I have a question for you. Welcome to Boston Black News.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
I'm happy to be back.
Good. It was 2 weeks ago.
I think it was,
And
yes.
a miracle happened.
Well, it was a result of hard work and grassroots people. So, and miracle too.
Yeah, a miracle. No, because not only did you get the Globe endorsement that morning, you announced it here on Boston Black News.
Yes.
But it just seemed like it just took off because I was like, wait a second. I didn't hear about you. And I heard about you from Charlotte Gola Ritchie and of course Paul. Every day at the gym, and And then when I met you, I was like, oh, this sister's serious, right? Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, it's like I seen everybody just came out of the wood. I don't know if it was because of the, the convention, but it just seemed like you controlled the whole election. Anyway, But I know that you did a lot of work because you
It
looked
was
at me.
a
Because
lot of
I
work.
asked her, I said, "You gonna come Friday, right?" She said, "No, it was early." You got to keep this running.
That's right, but I'm here
That's
because
it.
I still have to get through the November 5th election, but I'll be the only person on the ballot.
Okay.
So it's I don't take anything for granted.
There you go. Because what if someone could they
Tries
just
to-
come in and with a sticker candidate at this point? They couldn't do that now.
Perhaps I don't
It don't
know.
matter, but
I
you're
don't
gonna just
know.
keep on
But
plugging
I'm
away.
gonna keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah. So, what is next? I mean, how does that work? Do you get sworn in after January, or you stay in your role as manager of what is
Oh,
it?
sure.
Okay.
It's for the clerk position. The clerks are sworn in the first Wednesday in January.
Okay.
So when you look at the calendar, January 1st is the first Wednesday. So I'm assuming it's January 8th.
January 8th, because that would be on New Year's Day.
Right. Which, I'm good with that too. However, I don't know if others and state employees would feel the same.
Right. So you stay in your role, current role.
Yes,
correct?
I'll stay in that for a while. I am a managing director at the Committee for Public Counsel Services, our state's public defender agency.
Uh-huh.
And I haven't, yet figured all of that out when my last day will be at CPCS. But I suppose it will be at some point after the November 5th election.
Okay. So CPCS.
Committee for Public Counsel Services.
Okay, we got to get these acronyms
I
right.
know, they're everywhere.
They're everywhere. So, how does it feel? First of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I know how hard it is to run for office, and it takes a lot of courage. Folks don't know the sleepless nights. They don't know the effort it takes mentally, physically, emotionally, the time, the sacrifice you make. So we applaud you for not only running, but telling us what a clerk does.
Exactly. There was so much education behind this campaign, and that's fine. People do need to know what positions do
Right.
and how folks are working for them.
Right.
Because this has to deal with our court, and this is, all courts in this Commonwealth are the people's court. And
Right.
people need to know what they can expect from their courts. And they also, in this instance, do get to have some input or their voices are heard.
Right.
Because they can speak to me and it goes through me and I get it up to the court.
Right. Well, it's interesting because, for us, court is like, ooh,
Yeah,
right?
bad thing.
So did you kind of feel that? Because I was telling people about the position and they're like, oh, court,
Right.
So did you feel that was a challenge as a candidate when you met? Now, I know you've been working in the court forever and people know you, right? But
right.
I don't know. Was that something that
Well,
came?
it didn't appear to be that daunting when I would talk to people about it. They and maybe it's because when you do see someone who looks like you,
Right.
and they're telling you about the court, and I'm not a prosecutor,
Right.
so and there is there's a place for prosecutors. I'm not gonna
Right.
malign them, but when they do hear that, look, this is someone who was representing poor people, folks who could not afford to hire an attorney, fighting for, constitutional rights, for civil rights, for their rights. I think that makes a difference in how I'm received. Mm-hmm. And so people did not appear to be that, taken aback. It wasn't off-putting.
Right.
So it was okay, and also explaining what this role does and how it can, benefit them, and how I can take with me all of these experiences of being in Dorchester Court, Roxbury Court, BMC Central, and all of these various courts, and Suffolk Superior Court. I think it just sort of resonated a little bit more with them that I understand what's happening.
Right.
And because I was boots on the ground, I can take that to our Chief Justice, Kimberly Budd, and say, Justice Budd, look, this is what's happening.
Right.
This is what people are telling me.
Yes.
And it's not just Suffolk County votes this clerk in, but once in office, this clerk does represent, the entire state, people who have matters that are going to come into this clerk's office don't just come from Suffolk County. So that's important too to keep in mind.
You know, I'm glad you said boots on the ground, but I'm going to put that in the parking lot right now. The boots on the ground. Are you the first black woman in this role?
That's my understanding, and I may be the first black person.
Okay,
in this
I was going to get to that.
Yeah, we're talking history.
So
here.
it's history.
Yeah.
Wow.
And yeah,
that's good.
It's good, but it just makes you go, what?
I know.
We're in 2024, and we can still be the first at doing something.
Right.
You know, yeah. So let's get things rolling. You know, let's get all these firsts, in and over with, so we don't have to, continually, make history in that way. And that it's just a way of life where we can have black people, brown people, and people of all different colors in positions, and in positions that affect their lives.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say this is like the greatest position, but it's a significant position, and it does come with a lot of responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to have more people, and I think folks looking at me and the little children looking at me can see, yes, I can do that.
Right. And also to change the perception of court.
Absolutely.
Because, I mean, again, even for me, I was like, okay, clerk, court, and I understood court better because of Pastor Wall in his role. He's are you okay over there? Okay, just make sure you ain't sleeping. Okay, yeah. So I put in the parking lot boots on the ground. What was your path to victory? Now, you received 30,000 plus votes.
Correct.
Aaron Murphy received 20,000 plus votes, and you beat someone who had name recognition, who was citywide, and you pulled it off. And what was your path to victory, if you don't mind sharing?
I don't mind sharing.
Okay. So you can help some folks out here that don't get it. You had more numbers. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I still don't, this is not my lane.
Right.
So I don't fully, I am still coming to grasp with, the reality of just how significant the margin of victory was.
Mm-hmm.
But it all began with having a plan. And the chief architect of my plan was Senator Lydia Edwards.
Who, by the way, oh man, this was embarrassing for me. I was like, I can't believe she's not speaking to me. I kept waving at her.
Oh, yes. I know exactly what you're talking about.
So I was like, okay.
Tell everybody why. Yeah. You,
I'm going to tell them, right? So I'm speaking to Lydia Edwards, who I thought was Lydia Edwards, and she looks exactly like her. And so I was like, Lydia, I've been trying to get your attention. So I want to see if you're willing to do an interview, because I've heard some great things about your involvement with this campaign. She went like this. She said, I'm not Lydia. I'm a professor. I said, what? I'm her twin sister. Yes. I was so I felt like
no, they.
But no, watch this one. Everyone that was in that area, which was outdoors, where you gave your your congratulatory remarks, right? Yeah. They all thought it was her. And they weren't even going to say anything to her. It was just kind of weird. And I said to myself, you all thought that, why didn't you say something? But it was just kind of awkward. And she said, well, I could fill in. So I interviewed her. It was really funny. She said, I could interview if you want me to, but Lydia's probably going to knock me out. But anyway, it was such a moment. Because she looks just like
her twin sister.
Oh, my God.
Who knew? I knew, but
you knew. Yeah.
And because Lydia is off at boot camp.
Right.
Yes. She's just an amazing person, as is her sister.
Right.
So, it started with Lydia Edwards.
Right.
And, we sat down, put together this plan. Mm-hmm. And the one thing about it, when you do have a plan in place, and it's done with a lot of intentionality and purpose, mm-hmm. You stick with it. You do have to, it reminded me of like trial strategy.
Right.
You have to start with having, your theme of your case, of your defense.
Right.
And that's what you build on You also have to have in there the ability to be flexible.
Right.
So if you have to change up, you can do that and do it seamlessly.
Right.
So that's what we did, and it was mostly Lydia coming
Right.
up with the plan. And
Yeah.
you're going to get out there. You're going to be everywhere talking about this position, shining a light on it, and that's what I did. Now I had to do it while working my day job.
Yeah.
Because I have bills to pay. I have a 15-year-old son.
Right.
So I could not afford to take a leave of absence like a lot of people were trying to tell me. And I was like, no, you don't. Clearly, you're not a regular person. You don't understand.
Yeah, I got to pay my mortgage and stuff. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
So I would campaign before 9 and after 5. Now, what did before 9 look like?
Right.
That was call time.
Yeah.
Making calls.
Wow.
So usually the earliest you could probably call someone maybe 7:30, 7:45.
Right.
Boom. I'm taking my son to school. I'm in that car. I'm making
Superwoman.
those calls.
Right.
You have to multitask.
Right.
And the one thing I talked about a lot on this campaign trail was you must put in the work. Mm-hmm. Nothing, everything that I have been able to do and achieve with my life is because I put in the work.
Right.
There are rarely any shortcuts, and especially for people who look like us.
Right.
And we know this.
Right.
I grew up being told you have to do twice as much to be considered half as smart.
That's right.
So I just always put in the work.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So after 5, I'm off. I'm all over the place. I'm in, wow, I know Winthrop now. I know Revere. I know Chelsea and of course Boston.
Right.
So I'm all over the place. I'm at events. And when you're there, I'm spreading the word. I'm telling people who I am because a lot of people didn't know me, even in Boston.
Right.
But what I tell people from our community, even if you don't directly know me, someone you know, love, or care about probably does.
Right. Well, a lot of folks know you now. They know you. They're going to call you because you're the only one. 617-282-0685. We have Allison Cartwright here. She is the newly elected clerk of the Supreme Judicial Court. She defeated City Councilor at large Aaron Murphy for a seat that we did not know too much about. Now we're learning about the Governor's Council. We're learning about the Clerk of Supreme Judicial Courts. We're going to talk to some folks from the Registry of Deeds and other county commissioners. These are elected positions that we need to pay attention to because they carry a lot of power and they don't tell folks. So thank you again for running. We're really excited for you. And one of the things you had mentioned in your last interview here a couple of weeks ago, how you're going to connect court and community CC. Tell us a little bit about that. Have you given that some thought about that? Because you mentioned earlier about Kimberly Budd, Wayne Budd's daughter,
yes.
Chief Justice, right?
Sorry.
And I think she was sworn in during the Patrick administration. I think that's when Patrick.
I think
was it Baker?
Oh, you mean to get to the court? Yes,
right.
but she was made Chief Justice, I believe, under Governor Baker.
Really? Okay.
I believe so.
Well, congratulations to her. So, have you given some thought on some of the ways community can be? Because one of the things I remember when I was working at the governor's office, Supreme Justice Mark Wolf had me come into his office, which was like the whole block, and he one of the things that they did was have mock juries.
Yes.
I think that's really cool for some of these young people and actually even some adults, young adults, because I think that people need to know how the court operates because sometimes we end up in court for the wrong reasons or what have you. Is that something you've given any thought to as far as the community court connection? I mean, you are in the courts already.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the programs that I participate in is called Discovering Justice, Inc., and that's a program where attorneys on a volunteer basis work with middle school students. And
that might be it.
That might be it. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yes. And
okay.
Work with them, mentoring them and teaching them how to formulate arguments. And then they actually have a moot court event at the federal courthouse. And that's where Judge Mark Wolf was, a federal judge. So they actually go into court and they have those, they do their moot court in front of real judges.
Right.
And let me tell you, these children do some really impressive
Oh, yeah.
arguments. It's unbelievable.
So is that under your watch?
No, that's just something I have participated in.
Okay.
And I also, well, when I talk about making the whole community and courts, you know, doing that partnership, what I envision is having some type of a program on a regular basis, having children come into court, not just children, but seniors, anyone, come into court, watch these arguments,
Right.
and participate in that way and understand, you know, maybe we come out and do a presentation prior to the beginning of oral arguments, explain to them, this is what you're about to see,
Right.
and then let them see it in action.
Right.
And this is how, you know, laws are made from our highest court, and how it affects, you know, our lives.
Right.
From the smallest of details. It doesn't have to be a criminal case. It could be a case that has to deal with family law.
Right.
It could be a case dealing with business corporations, how they're going to do this, what we're going to do in terms of, you know, I'm trying to think of something really quickly that we can throw ourselves around. But
Yeah.
even, you know, the like minimum wage and things like that, and you know what Uber drivers, you know, can make, you know, and things like that have to sometimes get settled by the state's, you know, highest court.
Right.
And having people come in and see that on a regular basis, I think that's very eye opening.
Yeah. And also, in one of the thoughts, and I haven't passed this by past the wall, coming in here to talk about, not on, I mean, I know you're going to be extremely busy. Like every couple of months, come in and do a broadcast to talk about what goes on into Supreme. Of course, you can't talk about the details. I understand that. But just the process. How does this work? How does a jury, to your point, how are laws made? I think that would be really good, because for us here, the reason why we came up with this guide is to teach people, because, you know, it's not all that when we have low voter turnout, it's not all that folks are just apathetic. That's no. They may not just know how important these positions are. They don't know the difference from a U.S. senator, a state senator, and these are folks who went to college.
Right.
You know, so it's a good reminder of a mobile civic class or a mobile judicial class. They don't know about the three branches of government. And, you know, we've learned it in civics, in high school, political science and culture, what have you. But they don't teach that anymore. I don't see it. Maybe you do.
Well, you know, I'm from Michigan, so when I was in school, one of the mandatory classes you had to take in high school was government.
Right.
So we learned, you know, all that civics and all that stuff. But like you said, you learn it, and then you know,
you forget
at the
it.
time, then you forget because you're doing other things. So that's why it is, you know, it's important to constantly remind people, and you can do it in a gentle, welcoming way,
Right.
So that people receive it,
Right.
and are used to
Right.
receiving it. And just so I'm clear, it's not so much that the courts make law, but they interpret it, and then it does become, because I did say that, so I just want to be clear on
Interpret. Okay. We have a caller live on Boston Black News. Caller, what's your name and what's your question? Hello?
Hello?
Yes?
Good morning. I hear music.
Maybe you should turn your radio off.
I don't have my radio on.
Can I help you?
Are you giving me a hard time, Wanda?
Yes, I am.
Listen, don't stop, okay?
Okay. I love you.
Listen.
I love you, Priscilla.
I love you too, Ron.
Okay.
I want to compliment you on the good that you did an excellent job interviewing everybody.
Okay. I take everything back I said this morning. Okay. I take everything back I said this morning. How you doing, big sister?
You was talking about me?
No, I was talking good about you. You gonna take your compliment back?
No.
Okay.
No, I know.
Thank you so much, Priscilla.
I enjoyed it. I was happy to be a part of it.
Yes.
And I just want to, compliment you. But I want to congratulate Allison. I just think you did a phenomenal job, Allison. I'm so happy that you won this seat, and I look forward to you coming back on my show again one day.
I knew that was coming.
I heard what you said about bringing the kids into the courthouse and stuff, and I think that's an excellent idea. My program, Marcus Anthony Hall, we take our youth into hearings at City Hall and at the State House and other places. But we haven't taken them to the courthouse, and that's a good place for them to go so they can see, so they won't want to go down that route.
Yes. Next stop, the SJC, please. and wait. Bring them after I'm sworn in. Because I would love to, show them around.
That'd be good.
Give them a tour, and hopefully they can watch an oral argument take place.
Priscilla.
I can't hear so good. Hold on.
Okay, Priscilla, let me just say this. Yeah. I was complimenting Allison on being courageous enough to run for office, because I ran Priscilla's campaign, and so how hard it is to run for office. You find out, I know. Yeah. So I had to compliment her for that, and so we need to encourage more people to run for office, because 65%.
Exactly. Well, we started our path, United Community.
Okay.
Larry Ellison, Paul Joseph. There's some more people that are involved. Nadella Thomas is coming on board. Lisa Cersei. We're gonna get busy and really looking at the way our people, how we do our elections, and why we don't. We have to create a path so that we can raise money, so that we can get the people who we want in office, not just anybody just running, Okay. But I really want to compliment Allison, and I want to thank Lydia Edwards too for helping you with that,
Yes.
And so, Ron, I thought that was Lydia too. That was a good one. I said they must have did that in school too, I'm sure.
You were funny. Yeah, that was good. Actually, it was really fun, and we need to do more out in the field, and you should be out there, because we could have been in different locations, really covering it, because there was no other media. Because GBH, I talked to them, and they were going to interview me. Right, and they said, "Well, this election is not getting a lot of attention." I said, "It's not getting a lot of attention because you guys are not here. So we're going to be there, So anyway, so we were able to cover it. So thank you, Pastor Wall, for kind of pushing us out there, because we know that it's important that people participate in the state primary. Thank you very much, Priscilla, for calling in, and keep on keeping on, and keep complimenting your brother. You take care.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have a best day. Have a nice weekend.
Okay. So what do you want to say to our audience? You have nearly 200,000 viewers and listeners out there, and what are your thoughts?
Well, what I really want to say to our audience is get out there, participate, engage in your government. Yes. We cannot afford to sit back and allow things to happen to us and always be on the defensive. So, let's start putting in some offensive work into what we're doing and what's happening in our communities. And I know we can do it. And I just keep thinking of Michelle Obama and what she said at the Democratic National Convention when she said, "Stop the nonsense." So, let's really stop it. Let's get together. Let's do the positive route. Let's take that route. And, get together, become engaged. When I'm out talking to people and they're telling me about how they feel like, you're only here because you want to get our vote. And I'm like, well, no, I've been in this community for over 30 years, doing things, doing them from, my lane. And I have to admit too, I wasn't as engaged as I could have been in the political process, because I was so busy in the courts fighting for people's rights and when you're a public defender, that's a lot of hard work, and there wasn't much left over. But to the extent that you have anything left in the tank, start thinking about devoting it to, what's happening on the smallest level. And politics, it begins on that local level. So I encourage people to just start getting involved. Show up at these meetings. Make sure that, your voice is heard there. And when people do come and want your vote, make them earn it, because I felt like I had to earn every vote that I got. And I do appreciate everyone. It wasn't just me. It was a lot of us in this effort. And that's who I thanked, at my victory celebration was, this was a victory for us. And by that, I do mean all of us. So people, please stop the nonsense. Let's get busy. Let's roll up our sleeves. Let's do the work.
Right. And she also said, do something.
Yes.
So do something. We need you to do something, and we need you to get one of these, because this will be helpful. Making Boston Government Work for You, the 2024 Guide for Residents of the City of Boston. Make sure you get your hands on one of these. You can go to our website, dunkthevoteforever.org, and you can get the electronic version, so you don't have to find me. They're in local churches and community-based organizations. Make sure you get a copy. Again, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service. I know it's hard work. And I want to thank you, all those that are listening to us. Continue to keep up the fight. Make sure you go out and register to vote. The deadline for voter registration in the upcoming election, November 5th, is October 26th. October 29th is the last day to apply to vote by mail. October 19th to November 1st, early voting begins. And again, November 5th, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. it's the election. It's been a pleasure this morning. Keep on keeping on. Remember to dunk your vote on November 5th. God bless you, and we'll see you next week.
See how news, bad news is coming to you. Extra, extra, read all